And we are back with another live. And before I forget, I want to remind everybody that we are leaving for Australia on Tuesday. So excited. But we will still be doing our live, but we're going to be doing it on the road on Tuesdays. And I have to tell you, I am so extraordinarily excited about not just being in Australia, which I love Australians. I mean, I'm so happy to be going back. It changed my whole life the last time. We'll see what happens this time. Ooh, I just got chills. But we're also going to be doing a lot of things that we haven't done before. And so bear with us. This is going to be a lot of fun and a fantastic trip. I'm certain of it. And remember, if you're watching on the live or you're watching any of the videos even afterwards, come up and you're at the event, then come up and let me know. I'd love to say hello to you in person. But of course, we know that in the U.S., there is a new president that's been elected, President Trump, and that's going to have global implications. And that's why Chris said, if this is just about the U.S., this isn't just about the U.S., because guess what? We are all incestuously intertwined. And I'm going to show you how this, or at least begin to show you, how this new presidency is most likely to impact you. Because what are we seeing? We're seeing the stock markets making new highs every day. We're seeing stocks that have gained like 280% in the last week. And, I pointed out many, many times in the past how this has really been turned into a risk-on speculation market. And everything, it has been turned into a trading instrument. But let's get specific with this, okay? Because Trump's comeback drives gains in U.S. stocks and the dollar and treasuries slide. So what this means just in this headline, stocks are going up. Why? Because the treasuries are sliding, which means more inflation is anticipated. And I would bet that it's not going to take that long for it to rear its ugly head again. But again, the whole world kind of is tied into following what happens in the U.S. So stocks are up, bonds are down, yields are up, but the dollar is stronger. Okay, I got to talk about that because we hear it all the time. That's just versus other currencies. Have you suddenly gone into the store to see that your dollar buys so much more? And you're not going to either. So let's just kind of dig in and see where we're at, because there are promises that were made by now President Trump. And what are those? He's going to raise tariffs, which is going to create more inflation. And it's also going to give, because the assumption is that foreign imports coming in will be more expensive. And so then the hope is that people will choose to buy U.S. made products instead of those imported products. But in addition to that, what happens is it gives the U.S. products more room to charge you more. So this is very inflationary. He also talks about cutting taxes, which reduces income. And we've been for a long time. I mean, we're running almost $2 trillion officially, almost $2 trillion in deficits through the end of October. That will get worse. What is deficit spending? That's spending money you do not have. So you're spending future dollars. That too, while that is absolutely inflationary, cutting back taxes means that there's less income to work with, which means that we are compounding more interest. So higher inflation, less income, and then slashing regulations. We are going to be talking a lot about this as we move through this administration, because President Trump certainly did that a lot in his first term. So all of those regulations through the Dodd-Frank Act that were put in place after the great financial crisis in 2008, well, they were pretty much destroyed and taken out. Now, Basel III endgame that we've been talking about and waiting for is more than likely dead. So let's look at these promises, right? Raising tariffs, cutting taxes, and slashing regulations. The bottom line with all of that is risk and hyperinflation. Now, you guys know that I've been talking about the speed at which money changes hands and how that is one huge indicator to where we are in this hyperinflationary game, and that I believe that we're already in the early stages of it. With these three promises, if he is able to push all of these through, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few that'll be pushed through, we'll have to see as his term progresses, but that's just going to kick the inflation into high gear. And that means you lose purchasing power. So it's going to impact everybody. And it also means that the U.S. is going to be exporting this inflation and also exporting deflation for those countries that are going to have to be dealing with the higher taxes. And let's see. There's only one way. Makes it so simple. There's only one way for the governments and the central banks to fight deflation, and that's with inflation. So, I hope you all understand, and I'll be doing a lot more work on this, how we are so interconnected on a global basis. What happens over here doesn't stay over here. It travels all around the world. And one of the places that it travels to is China. So I think this is super interesting because they unveil a $1.4 trillion debt swap. So basically what that means is that debt that's coming due right now, they're elongating the maturity. So they're trying to postpone the inevitable, which can be done until it can't. And I wish that I could be more definitive than that. But Beijing retains fiscal room to respond to any Trump trade war. And that means that what they're really doing is saving that stimulus for Trump. So you see, this is definitely global, and this is going to export and force that global inflation. And how soon will that happen? I think it'll happen pretty soon. So I also wanted you to see what President Trump can do on his own and what he would need help making happen. This is in regard to the tariffs. What he's proposing is a 20% tariff on all imports, 60% tariff on Chinese imports, and 200% tariff on imported vehicles from Mexico. So everybody's going to have to deal with tariffs, but China and Mexico the most. He can do that alone, right? Executive action alone. He doesn't need Congress to say okay, but will it likely be challenged in court? Yeah. Does that mean he can't make it happen? No. So the battle will begin, and it's going to be extraordinarily interesting to see how this comes out. I'd also like to point out, let me grab my little laser pointer. I'd also like to point out that this is the US dollar to the offshore Chinese renminbi. I really should do a piece on, because we were pegged for quite some time, that built their manufacturing infrastructure, and it's really pretty interesting. I don't know. If you guys want me to do it, I will. You can let me know. But you can see how the dollar went up. That's versus other currencies. And the reason why it got strong to the other currencies is because with higher inflation, that also indicates higher interest rates, which is why the bonds went down, right? Here's the relationship. Interest rates, market value of the bonds. When interest rates go up, the market value of the bonds go down. When interest rates go down, the market value of the bonds go up. So this is actually really, really bad for all of those banks that are now going to have even less regulation in them and take more and more risk with your depositor money. Can you see that connection? But it's going to happen all over the world. I'm sorry. It is. And the tariffs are coming. So they increase the cost of the price of the imports. That adds to inflation. It also gives U.S. companies a little bit of ramp room so that because you're looking at a 60% tariff or 200% tariff on vehicles, they don't have to be higher than them. They can move their prices up a little bit and it'll still seem cheap. You ready for this inflation? It will happen. But if you have gold and silver, you're prepared. So it doesn't matter. And that's the whole point of prepping. All right, I'll come back to this. All right, so Trump's plan to cut taxes on Social Security benefits may cost beneficiaries, blah, blah, blah. But these are the three things. He's going to, and somebody asked me last week about what was going on with taxes. He is likely to extend those 2017 tax cuts, lower the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%, and eliminate federal income tax. He's talking about it on tips and things like that. But all of those things require congressional legislation. So we have to see whether or not those things can go through. But absolutely, that's what he's looking at. And tips, overtime, and Social Security benefits, tax cuts would happen. That's going to reduce the income. That proposal is extremely popular. Yeah, people always want that free lunch. They want the tax cuts, and I don't disagree because I don't really like what they're spending my tax dollars on. They waste an awful lot of them. However, there is no such thing as a free lunch. The problem is he doesn't have it paid for. So that goes into that deficit spending. And we're already near $2 trillion in deficit spending that they're talking about, because I'm sure there's a lot of hidden stuff and off balance sheet accounting that we don't really know what's going on. But all of those tax cuts, and they have like a trickle down impact. They reduce the government income. But then finally, the one that, frankly, this is kind of my favorite one, not because I think it's such a good thing, but because it's absolutely fascinating to watch. I mean, whether you realize it or not, we are absolutely living through the most interesting time in history. This is one that they will be talking about for hundreds of years because we are making a complete and total transition. And so what do we need? We need a huge crisis to push that through. Now, we've been talking about all of what's been going on throughout the system and how vulnerable the system is. Now let's remove some more regulations, because that's going to make it better. No, it's going to shift a lot of income. We're going to take on a whole lot of debt. But Wall Street drafts Trump's wish lists over bank capital and SEC regulation. So remember, mark my words on this, Basel III Endgame is dead. That might have created the crisis, but it's going to be even bigger when it happens. So we'll look at what he's talking about. Reversing Biden-era limits on energy projects, and he can do that on his own. And he can also exit the Paris Climate Accords, which also is very inflationary, and ease regulation on the cryptocurrency industry. And of course he's going to do that. He owns a cryptocurrency company, and his son is now going into venture capital, and happy days are here again. Yay. And remember, how do they make these transitions? They make it seem normal. And that's what this job is. But the speed at which the transition team and industry are moving to identify potential regulatory relief underscores how aggressively the new administration could move. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. We're going to be talking all about it. And look, here's the reality. It wouldn't have mattered who got in this office. We would be more than likely having a lot of this very similar kind of conversation. So we are just watching it and get into position to benefit, because this is the kind of thing that happened back in 1929, right? Happy days are here again. U.S. banks to gain from looser capital and merger policies under Trump. Yes, they are looser capital. Well, we are already living in an era where banks don't have to hold reserves for your deposits. So if we have even looser capital rules, what do you think is going to happen during this next crisis? I mean, I seriously want you to think about that, because, you know, how do you catch a wild hog? You do it slowly, and you put each piece of the fence in place until they're trapped. They lull you into this false sense of security. And so look at what happened to bank stocks. I mean, in addition to the rest of the markets and the meme stocks and all of that, it's because what the expectation is lots more free money. But understand, it's not really free money. This money is created from debt. And when you have that debt, you either have to service it, you have to pay it off. So service it means you got to make the payments, you got to pay it off entirely, you got to roll it over, or you're going to default on it. Take your pick. So when you know that you're going to declare bankruptcy anyway, and you get a new credit card in the mail, what do most people do? They go out and spend, baby. And that's the anticipation here as well. Looser capital requirements, a lot more risk. This is like an earthquake for bank mergers and acquisitions and bank regulatory policy. And let's think about these mergers and acquisitions as well, because all we really have is the illusion of choice. You walk into a grocery store, it seems like there are thousands of food companies in there down every single aisle. But in reality, because of the mergers and acquisitions, not just it's been in banking, it's been in food, it's all over the place. You're really only looking at a handful of companies that are producing all of this with a different label, kind of like Republicans and Democrats. Right? They have a different label, but they've all been moving us in the same direction. All of them. They've all been destroying sound money principles, right? It was Lyndon Johnson that took us off the silver standard, and he was a Democrat, and then the Republican Tricky Dick took us off the gold standard. Doesn't matter. And we're too far gone. I've got news for you guys. There isn't one human being on the planet that can make a difference in what we're going through, because we are at the end of this big experiment, and it's going to go out with a huge bang, more than likely very similar to 1929. But banks would have fewer constraints and be able to use more cash for lending. They always talk about lending. It's about gambling or share buybacks, right? I mean, what do share buybacks do? They enrich large shareholders. And guess what? Once that money leaves that corporation, it is not there to get you through the next crisis. It's like using up your savings, and then your car breaks down and you have no money for it. Well, more debt. And ask yourself, how much debt can I grow before that becomes a problem? Because if I owe you $1 million, I got the problem. If I owe you $10 million, you got the problem. You see what I'm saying? We've got the problem. There's absolutely zero doubt about it. And what are banks likely to do with it? Well, we talk about derivatives, right? And this is the most current report. It just goes through the second quarter of 2024. I can't wait for the third quarter to come out. But this is the notional amount of derivatives in the FDIC insured banks. What does that mean? This is the notional amount is the amount that the two parties have agreed that these things are worth. But not one entity, not the FDIC, not the IMF, not the Fed, not the World Bank, not BIS, nobody, and they all admit this openly, knows the true value of what's at risk. And that's why that word notional is so critically important, because the markets are making nominal and notional new highs. But the value of the currency is also making real new lows, right? You can buy less and less and less with these, in this country, dollars, but I don't care where you are in the world. So let's look at this, because banks are trading more derivatives today than during the great financial crisis, but what they've done is they've compressed them. So that actually even hides it more than 2008, right? It's all about appearances. And let's just see, because what are derivatives? Well, they're derived from something, hence derivative, but then they have no relationship other than the price action of the underlying. You cannot convert your derivatives into the underlying. And it's leverage bet. And God knows how much leverage it is. The last time I looked, in many cases, and it'll vary, the leverage was 1,000 to 1. So if a bet goes wrong, what do you think is going to happen? Right? I mean, just think about this logically. So there's 2007 and the derivatives. And here we are, 2024, and the derivatives significantly higher. Plus, they didn't have that compression in 2007 because they didn't invent that till 2013. I've shown this many times in many videos. But hey, you know, do yourself a favor. I give you the links to all my research. Go to the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, and look at their quarterly report on derivatives in the FDIC insured banks. Because we think that everything is so safe, except over the last year and a half or so, we've been watching the banking industry starting to implode, haven't we? So I think that too will look very similar to 1929 regarding the runs on the banks. Because once you realize that your bank is not safe, what does that insurance give you? Any insurance policy, look on the contract. It's only as good as the claims paying ability of the counterparty to that contract. So if the bank is upside down in their bets, there's no money there, guess what doesn't happen? And they've been testing this right along. And remember, this last recent test on a bank failure, 50% of the uninsured deposits did not get bailed out. So they're setting precedents. They're getting ready for what they know is going to happen. Because the other part that I want you to look at, and this was something that the Dodd-Frank Act was supposed to take care of and eliminate, was proprietary trading. Well, that means trading to make money. It's just a bet, right? Well, guess what? Even down here, dealer trading. Down here, right? That's held for hedging. That's supposed to be legitimate, and it is legitimate. A hedged bet is, let's say I'm a farmer and it's January and I have a crop that's going to be matured and go to market in September. And I have no idea what's going to happen with the weather, with the water, with the crop. Is it going to be a good crop? Is it going to be a bad crop? I don't know. So I'll buy a derivative. I'll buy a futures contract to guarantee a minimum amount of income so that I can stay alive. That's a hedged bet. And you can see not many are held for hedging. But what the other part is trading. And the regulations are about to become much more loose. And I'm hoping you can see this problem, because we've got this iceberg that all we ever see is this little tip, and it's all this crap underneath that's really dangerous. We can't see it. We can't see it. And even those that are regulating the banks, they can't see it. They can't see it. Food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. Get it done. We have entered a very dangerous phase. And yep, happy days are here again for a minute, and people are going to be responding to it. It's just like if you go out and you get a new credit card and you buy a new car and you buy all this stuff, and your neighbors are looking at you and going, wow, you must be doing really well. But then what if you lose your job and your income declines? You're going to lose the car, you're going to lose the house, you're going to lose everything. And it's no different than what I'm showing. So you really need to be ready and prepared for that. Because I want to just remind you, I need the image, please. Thank you. That U.S. regulators chide 4 big banks' living wills. And the FDIC escalates cities' concerns when this was June. So they have no credible plan if something goes wrong. Everything will topple. And it's the Wild West right now. It is totally the Wild West. The Federal Reserve and FDIC said Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan Chase failed to show how they could safely unwind their derivatives portfolio. They can't. Warren Buffett calls them weapons of financial mass destruction. Because they're these huge leverage bets that nobody knows what's going on with them. Even the creators, they make them so complicated that you don't ask, well, I can't understand that. So, hey, if you don't ask, they don't have to tell. But the problem is that they make them so complicated that they don't even know what's going on with them. And that's not me just being really negative. That's me stating a fact from all of the data that I've read. You really have to think about this, because you have to become not just your own central banker, but your own community. And this is why the local community is so important. Because that's what's going to enable you to weather this storm. We're stronger together than we are as individuals. Do you think, I have people come on my farm all the time, and they're all like, wow, when do you have the time to do? I don't. It's my community around me, right? We all need community, every single one of us. We are not an island. And we need to take advantage of this opportunity to build the community while we can. Because the reality is that the SIFIs, systemically important financial institutions, that means that when one goes down, everybody's going down. SIFIs are more leveraged and dangerous. I just showed you some of the SIFIs in the U.S., but this is true on a global basis too. More dangerous today than in 2008. This is dangerous. But what also happens with spot gold, right? Gold hastens retreat as dollar rallies on Trump victory. Now, why would gold hasten its retreat? Because while the Fed wants you to think that this Federal Reserve note is money, well, actually, this is a $1 coin, okay? So this is fiat money. This is sound money. I'll get something bigger so you can see it. This is sound money. It's the same coin, just the flip side, right? So if the dollar is getting stronger like I showed you against the yen, that's how it impacts the spot gold market. This is a great time if you haven't done it and you need some asset protection gold. This is a great time to be buying the asset protection gold. So things like this, which is a pre-33 1-ounce gold coin, or even this, if you're so inclined, because everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing. Okay, this is going to follow the spot market more. I'm not sure what the premiums are doing right now, but I can tell you it's a great time to be loading up. And whatever it is that you're doing, please get it done. If you have not already called us and put your own sound money strategy together, please do yourself a favor and get it done. Please, please. It's so important. So I want to show you something, though, because one thing I've discovered over all these years is that I can look at the same thing over and over and over and over again, but depending upon what I'm looking at, I just look at things a teeny bit different. And that's what I ask everybody to do. Just start to look at things just a teeny weeny bit different, because when you do that, it's amazing what you see. Now, what we have here is a relative performance chart. And I didn't do this on this, but I'll explain it in a second. So that red line is the spot gold contract, and the blue line is the US dollar contract. And so we can see right here how, yep, dollar up, spot gold down. But what I also saw when I looked at this as compared to all the times that I've looked at this relative performance chart over the years, guess what? The exact correlation between the US dollar and the spot gold contract is breaking down, because we may see it for a minute, but this doesn't look fully correlated, does it? It used to be. It used to be. So what I'm trying to show you, what I'm really trying to help you understand is where we are in the system. Because people will think that we have all sorts of time, and they'll think that they're going to know like 1 second before and be able to get in position. No. You know, when I became a prepper, and I wasn't a prepper before this, was 2008. In 2008, I watched the system die. Watched it. I was getting ready to retire. I was going to travel, go live someplace for like 3 months, and then learn how to do the regional cooking, learn how to do the regional art. That was going to be my retirement. And there I am watching the death of the dollar and the currency, and not just the dollar. It was the death of the whole fiat money system. And I went, holy crap. I did not think that I would see it in my lifetime. I didn't. So I'm telling you, that's when I became a prepper. That's when, instead of that little 2-bedroom condo, lock the door, off I go, no worries, that I bought a larger property with a house big enough if I had to take my kids in, to take my kids back in, because I sure couldn't do it in that little condo. And I couldn't grow food there. And food becomes the single biggest issue for most people during these transitions. And we can certainly see that happening around the world. You need a foundation. You need a foundation of sound money. But you also need security in food, water, energy, security itself, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. Get it done, please, because it would break my heart for any of us, anybody, even those that are not believers of it. It will break my heart to see people go to bed hungry at night. It will break my heart if we are suckered into this new surveillance system and we lose all the rest of our freedoms, because we've lost a lot, but they do it little by little by little so that you don't realize how much more narrow your world is becoming. How do you catch a wild hog? You lull them into a false sense of security and you catch them. Don't be lulled. The stock market going up, sure, it's risk on. Crypto market's going up, yeah, it's risk on. Do you really want to take that risk? And if you do, make sure you do it in a diversified way. And now I'll take some questions. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I've been working so hard getting ready for Australia. I'm so excited, but okay. So Twyla asks, can we trust any politician? Well, I like to think maybe there are some that we can trust. And I certainly do think that there are people that get into politics to begin with for the right reason. But then I think that once they're inside the system, just like Ron Paul, I mean, he saw it in the 70s. He's been talking about it since then. And they just gave him no credence. Fortunately for us, he did not flip over. But I do know that there are some that they just can't fight that force. So I don't know. And by the way, I've been invited to sit on a Sound Money board. And so I'll be going to different states, I think. I don't know exactly yet. I'll keep you informed as we move forward with it. We'll have a page on our website regarding it, because we have to create a global sound money movement. We just have to, or our children are doomed to be slaves. You have to decide if that's okay with you. For me, it's not. And Kathy Kaler asks, what about bank stocks? Do you feel they are okay? Personally, I don't own any stocks. Yes, the markets are going up, but I'm not going to know exactly the moment when the 1929 crash is going to happen. And I was there in the 80s on Black Monday in 87. I was there. Best day I could have ever been a stockbroker. The most incredible day. Yeah, it was pretty shocking. Day started out seeming normal. I went out for lunch. I came back, and all Hades had broken loose. So, no, I don't really feel that they're okay. I think the systemically important banks are taking lots and lots and lots and lots of risk. If you want to take that, that's fine. There are hedged ways to do it. Like I said, just make sure that whatever you're doing, what is the point of diversifying a portfolio? So if this goes away, this goes up and recoups it. This is all part of the sound money strategy. The sound money strategy is based upon where you are and helping you get to where you want to be, right? So we're going to do everything in our power based upon where you are and your goals to create this layer of protection so that you're covered in the beginning of the crisis and all the way through it. But then on the other side of it, and it depends on what your goals are, but on the other side of it, you're in a better position than you were when you walked in. That's our goal for the sound money strategy. And I know we can do it. Well, history proves that we can do it. So I'm not worried about that one. And let's see. Also, to store gold and silver, if I would get some, would a bank safe deposit box be okay, or Delaware depository? Personally, I do not, nor would I suggest holding it in a bank vault, because those banks are tied to the Fed. And I've had even this little old lady, why they would have questioned her, I don't know. But they did, and they drilled into her box, and then she got a letter afterwards saying, oh, it's okay, because what she held in her box was this, right? Collectibles. That's okay. Bullion, this is a New American Eagle. Bullion, read the fine print at the safe deposit box, but you are not supposed to hold cash or bullion in your bank safe deposit box, because they classify that as hoarding because they can't see it, right? I don't consider it hoarding, but they do. So if you're considering doing it inside of a bank safe deposit box, you better read that fine print. I think a private depository is a much better option. Delaware depository, that's where a lot of the IRAs are being held. and inside of an IRA. I mean, personally, you do whatever you're comfortable with. But personally, if I can hold it inside of an IRA, and I'm referring to gold, then I don't want it, because it's very easy if they decided to do an overt confiscation, well, then Delaware Depository is not going to say, oh, no, our clients don't want you to come in and take their gold. They're not going to do that. So a private vault that's even more private than that for your holdings of this, like you might want to check with some local large jewelry stores, not chains, but local jewelry stores, because frequently, like here in Phoenix, I don't know if they changed the name of the depository there, but like Ganem Jewelers, I mean, any jeweler, anybody that's got that is going to have extraordinarily high security anyway, and they very well may rent out some private boxes. So, I can't tell you for sure, but you might want to check that out locally, and you might be surprised at what you find. And Myron Miv, I don't know, I'm sorry. Hi, stars. Does Lynette think it is good to ride the crypto train up for a while to have more dollars to spend on gold? Well, I'm not riding the crypto train, but it doesn't mean that you can't ride the crypto train. It makes sense to convert some of your holdings in the crypto into gold, because this is sound money. There's a reason why they made this Bitcoin, image in gold, right? And what are all the cryptocurrencies images? They're either gold, silver, or platinum. Why? Why? So you can do that if you want to, but how about hedging your bet right off the bat? Is it going to go up? Yes. President Trump owns a crypto company, and he is definitely wanting to be known as the crypto president. So they're going to print lots of this, right? And that's going to drive the nominal prices up. But what nobody knows is, where is that breaking point? It's like an avalanche, right? And an avalanche, it's snowing and snowing and snowing, and everything is fine, 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 fine. How much does a little snowflake weigh? Nothing. And yet, that one little snowflake, when it hits all those other snowflakes, now you have an avalanche. And nobody could see it coming before it happens. That's the way I feel about it. So, do I think that cryptocurrencies are going to keep going up? For a while. Yes, I do. Can you ride that train? Well, if that's the train you want to ride on, I'm not going to tell you cannot do that. I'm not your mother. And you can ask my daughters, although probably one would say I do tell her. The other would probably say I don't tell her. I don't think I do. But, everybody has to do what they are comfortable doing. You have to understand, guys, I have been groomed for this moment in time. This is where I've lived my life, whether it's as a banker, as a stockbroker, with my Uncle Al in hard assets. This is where I've lived my life. And do I think cryptocurrencies are here to stay? And do I think that Bitcoin is here to stay? More than likely. I can't tell you exactly, but more than likely, because Wall Street has adopted it. I'm still having a little trouble wrapping my brain around the functionality, unless it's for trading. Now, blockchain, that's a different story, but yeah. So, Myron Maeve, you do whatever you're comfortable doing, and I'm going to love you anyway. And Cool Brother G asks, what do you think would happen to gold if the Dems don't let Trump take the presidency? Well, for one thing, I don't think the Dems are going to be able to stop this. But I don't think it would have mattered even if Harris had gotten in, because what were they all talking about? Do you think that these presidents, these people that have been presidents, other than maybe George Washington and those in the beginning, do you think that any of them understand what money is? because I'm telling you, it was so interesting when I was at my trainer's the other day, and we were talking about it, and he made some kind of, similar kind of comment about that. And I said, well, it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. Lyndon Johnson took the silver out of the coins, right? And then he was a Democrat, and then Nixon took the gold out of the coins, and he was a Republican, going in the same direction. So I don't think it really matters. I think those areas that he has to go through Congress, if the Republicans don't have the majority vote, I think it'll be harder to get those pushed through, but we're going to find out, aren't we? And Tony Thunberg asks, do you think it could be profitable in the long run to buy gold with your salary and then do credit card velocity banking? Once debt paid, rinse, repeat. I think so. Ty and greetings from Sweden. Oh, Sweden. Thank you. Oh, sorry. You are very welcome. Well, I do think that it's profitable. I mean, that's what I've done. I've been buying gold with my salary, and Adam's been asking me to do a video on this for a while, and I will. I'm getting to the point. But it's actually how I created the down payment for my house,
right,
was buy gold.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, fine. But yes, I do think that it will be profitable in the long run to buy gold with your salary. I don't know that I'm crazy about the credit card velocity, because the credit cards are subject, unless you can get a fixed rate on something, right, for a block of time. Like, that is definitely one advantage that the U.S. has. We may see that happening more just to get the housing globally more affordable. But the advantage that we have here is that you can have a 30-year fixed mortgage. And so if you have a fixed rate mortgage and you buy these undervalued and let them go to their true valuation, this isn't actually what I use for that. It'd be more like a lower quality of this. But then you would liquidate however much you needed to bam, pay that mortgage off when they do that first overnight revaluation. So yeah. And also the other part of this, and this is really important, Tony, because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, is that this is severely undervalued, obviously, because we know a rising gold price is an indication of a failing currency, whereas these fiat money assets, they're all blown up by this, right? By that printing press. So they're severely overvalued. This will flip-flop. Then you can, first of all, we're going to know who's going to be able to survive this debt debacle, which we can't tell right now, but we'll know by then. Then you're going to have real money to convert into those income producing assets. It's not rocket science. It's just a repetition of history. And it's simple. That's what I like. Money should be simple. It shouldn't be so complicated that you have to be an engineer in order to understand how it works. That doesn't make sense to me. It's just like this system of debt. And it's amazing to me that we aren't taught this. I mean, I understand why, but it's still amazing to me that we aren't taught about how money is created and supported in the system. We're told the full faith and credit of the government. What does that mean? Well, as long as you trust them, right? This is a con game. It requires trust. It requires confidence. As long as you trust them, so you have faith in our government, then you will continue to loan them money, extend them credit, right? So as long as the credit card company feels that you're a good risk, they're going to keep giving you more and more and more credit because they want you to use the card more. They make money every time you use the card. And if you don't pay that balance off, they make money on the interest, right? This is no different, honest to goodness. It's no different. I don't like credit cards primarily because I don't want to be compounding interest. I do have credit cards, but I pay them off every month. I don't run a balance. And it's that interest rate, because when interest rates spike, that's what spikes on the credit card. You never get out of debt. So fixed rate debt makes sense. and it's part of the strategy. Variable rate debt, that's not a risk that I am personally willing to take. You have to make your own choice.
Low blood pressure wants to know if he can drink from your fountain of youth. And he's wondering if, did it come with the bug out home?
Well, I don't know. Maybe send a picture. But thank you very much. I honestly spend a ton of time on this just so that you think that. I'm also kind of having fun with my new haircut, to be truthful, but thank you so much. Okay, and Beverly Michael asks, is there a value effect of slabbed $20 St. Gaudens versus non-slabbed? Yes, well, yes there is, but it kind of depends. Because like this is a raw lib. This is going to run kind of pretty much like this will run the new one, right? The bullion, because it's not slabbed, it's just raw. I like it for this is what I use for my savings. This is my savings account, right? This is a slabbed St. Gaudens, right? But this falls into, really, I mean, it's pre-33, so fortunately it is classified as a collectible, but it doesn't really have a premium because it's all scuffed up and, I hold it in my hands and, throw it in a pouch and all of this. This one happens to be Mint State 63, okay? So that means MS 63. So what that means, MS means Mint State, never been in circulation. But of course, all those years ago, they might have thrown them in a pouch like I do with just these raw coins. They might have stacked them. They were not thinking about them in a collectible way. So the 63, the number afterwards, somewhere between 60 and 70, is going to tell you the level of blemish. So there are a number of factors that we look at. We look at how many were originally minted. How many have been graded in Mint State 62, 63, 64, et cetera, and all those different levels. And then like when we're choosing coins, the way that we do it, it's kind of like you always want the worst house in the best neighborhood, right? So let's say I want to do growth, for example, because I want to convert it into income producing assets. That's one of my goals, right? What I'm going to do, let's say that I decide, or whoever the strategy specialist that you're working with says, okay, well, I want a Mint State 64 coin, St. Gaudens or whatever, just like that. They're going to go to the 64 list and they're going to look for the coin that has the lowest population at the cheapest price. So now we're in the 64 neighborhood, and what we're looking for is the cheapest house in the best neighborhood, because that is the one that is most likely to outperform all the other ones in that same neighborhood. Did that make sense? Yeah. I know Adam is really into his Pokemon cards
that
and
makes
the collectibles,
sense to me.
so I want to make
Right.
I want to make sure that makes sense.
And someone had asked earlier, I believe it was low blood pressure, asked earlier what options we sell. We sell graded cards, or excuse me, we sell graded coins, we sell bullion, and we sell collectible raw pre-33, correct? We sell all of those options.
We
just making sure we sell all of those options.
Right.
Correct.
And we are working on some others, maybe not, because remember, it's amazing to me because I feel like we've been around forever, but remember, we've only just begun. So we've got some more things that are in the hopper that we're working on. But everything, and because we need to meet you where you are, and our goal is to help you get to where you want to be, and to be there to support you all the way through. And guess what? Even afterwards, we are working so hard on future-proofing this company, because you're always going to need to understand what's going on inside the system, and we will evolve as it makes sense to evolve to give you that support. And I hope that if you haven't watched the video that I did with Monica, I love her. She's also going with us to Australia. So we're going to be doing a lot of bonding over the next couple of weeks. And let's see. So yes, there is. But like I couldn't send this coin in to get slabbed. Okay? So I also want you to understand that. Not every coin's going to get slabbed. If you have some that are raw that maybe you inherited, this actually happened to me once, and I'll tell you what, I can't tell you how good it made me feel. But this young man called me one day, and they were really dirt poor. I mean, it was hand to mouth. But his grandfather had just passed away, and when they were going through his things, they found a bunch of gold coins, maybe 10 or 12 or something like that. And so he called me and he said, well, I have these. Are they worth anything? So I just did just a quick little scan, and I'm like, these are pretty rare. I said, send me one, right? It turns out I sent them on to the wholesaler because they're really the ones. I'm not a numismatist. I don't pretend to be a numismatist. So I sent them on to the wholesalers because they have lots of numismatists there. And when they came back, they were willing to pay this guy $1.5 million for that one coin. And he had 10 or 12 of them. So here is somebody that went from their whole family dirt poor. I mean, seriously, I'm getting chills. You don't even know how good that made me feel. So I would wish that on every single person that's watching this video, but you need to be working. If you're going to do that, it's got to be somebody that's reputable, right? It's got to be somebody that's reputable, because somebody else could go, yeah, well, this is worth the spot price, and then turn it in themselves. Got to be reputable. It's very important. And low blood pressure asks, where can you buy an American-made cell phone, television? Good point. In the 80s.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
It is. And you're absolutely right, low blood pressure, because in the 80s, when all of the talk was about globalization, and I remember going, I can see some problems with that. I can definitely see some. So yeah, to your point, 20% tariff on all imports. Inflation. And Tyga Stacker asks, Lynette, thank you. CTY, I learned something today. TY, thank you. You're very welcome, by the way. And thank you. Thank you all for being here. You don't even know how much I appreciate it. But let's see. Thank you for teaching starting 3+ years ago. Oh yeah, I've been doing this since 2002 on the internet since 2015, on YouTube since 2016. I have my own channel now. Congratulations. Teaching also based on what I learned from you and others, but you are my first teacher. Oh, thank you so much. Why don't you invite me on your show? I'll come on your show. You just put it in. You can send the email to hello, or no, there's a media.
I know. I can't remember
it. But it's right in the header of this, or probably one of the videos that we recorded. I would be so happy to come on your channel. I would be very happy to do that. We have to come together in community. And the more people that are out there talking about this, the better it is for everybody. So if you want me to, I would be very happy to. Just let us know and let them know that I said it on air. And then
we're recording.
It's on recording. The other thing is that we like to, so when somebody does have me on their channel, we promote it too.
Cool. You found
It's
it?
the way
Perfect.
to build and Arthur found you. So yes.
He also had a follow-up question, which was what I'm typing now. This one right here.
What do I think about the rumors I heard on Elon Musk's Dogecoin going to go up? Oh, yes. All of Elon Musk's little, jokes and the memes and all that. Of course they are. Why are they going up? Because this is what's anticipated. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of that. Yeah, they'll go up. But what does that also mean for all those dollars and currencies that are already out there? I got this $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. Do not be fooled by nominal confusion. They do this when they set up inflation. Not one man in a million understands it. Thank goodness this woman does, right? Because, hey, Christine Lagarde said she doesn't understand inflation. Jerome Powell said he doesn't understand inflation. I think that's a little bit of a problem since their job is to regulate the rate and speed of inflation. So, yeah, I do think it's going up, but am I buying it? No. No, because I'm not a trader. If you're a trader, that's okay. You just want to be properly diversified. And Prospector says, a guy named Identity Block says the dollar became digitized back in 2020 when the Fed removed bank reserves. Could this be the new currency that replaces the dollar? Yeah. It certainly could be, I think, but it's going to be called the dollar. Whatever the new currency is, mark my words on this, because as long as it holds the name, then people think nothing has changed. I was there in 1971. I have in here 20. Did we ever put up a bill or an image of both those $20 bills where the dates on them are really obvious so that people could see the one or the other? Because I know that I hold them up.
That video, that whole video that does all those animations and stuff will be launched next week.
Yay!
So that'll be on our channel next week.
And what is the name of that video?
The Transition of Money.
Oh, yeah. And how long have we been working on that?
A while.
Exactly.
A while. Couple weeks minimum. Yeah,
yep.
Couple weeks minimum.
And really, I say that not because I want him to do it faster, because I would rather him go slower and make it better. Because I really, really, really want you to understand this. How many times can you be lied to and you do not know the truth? So stay tuned for that one. See, we got you something good, even though I'll probably be on a plane when it airs. And Vicky asks, I have done your mantra totally. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Oh, thank you. Really, thank you. Thank you, but I am still very nervous. Will it really be enough? If you've done the mantra totally and you have a sound money portfolio and strategy, history tells us that it will be enough. But what really makes it enough is this community. That's what really makes it enough, because you're bringing in what you have. I'm bringing in what I have. He's bringing in what he has. She's bringing in. It'll be enough. And just be part of the community and be ready to help those that aren't, because they're really, there's 8.4 billion people on this planet. We're trying to get 3% to buy gold and silver. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get us a seat at the table. I don't know if all the work that I'm doing in front of the camera, behind the camera, and all over the place is going to make a difference. I don't know. But what I do know is that if we don't do it, we have no shot at all. Yes, I think, Vicki, that thank you for doing all of the mantra, and we're here to support your efforts. And, Morgan, I'm super excited about the launch of the new YouTube channel in January to talk about all of that other stuff, and maybe you can come on and talk about it as well and what have you, because we really are working so hard to build this community. If you've done it and you've got a good foundation and you've got your strategy built, it's more than anybody else has done or most other people have done. And together, it'll be enough. And Leslie says, Lynette, why is gold going down so hard? Because of this, my friends. because now who wants gold? We don't need to protect ourselves. We have lots and lots of money printing. So really what is happening is, remember, these are the flip side, right? Fiat money nominally, with the markets going up, Dogecoin, the meme stocks, the bank stocks, all of that, people are looking at that and going, this is great. What they don't understand is that the value of all of the stuff that's out there is going away. So gold is going down because the dollar is getting stronger versus other monies. And gold is a money. So just like you saw it with the Chinese renminbi, the dollar got so much stronger against the Chinese renminbi, the dollar got stronger against spot gold. This is not reflective in the spot gold market, which is the one that's gone down hard, right? Risk on means they're buying stocks, they're buying options. They don't care about quality. They don't care about valuations. This is protection. I'd rather be protected. I don't care about giving that up because, and think about it. You know, if I'm right, maybe I'm not, who knows? But I mean, I've just been living in this world my entire life. But hey, all assets, thank you, Uncle Al. At some point, I can't tell you exactly when, but at some point, all assets, all instruments go to their fundamental value. The fundamental value of any debt-based, government-based currency is zero. I showed you. That's from the Fed's mouth. That's not even from my mouth. That's them. And the 4,800 times it has been attempted before that. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Even in the stock markets, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And be careful about what it costs you. A lot. Costs you a lot. And Maurizio, I love that name actually. Maurizio Rodriguez asks, hi Lynette. So being a 96 Gen Z, I have noted that it takes me so much longer for us to save for a house. Can you discuss how my generation will survive, if we can? Your generation will survive because they can't keep kicking the can down the road. I showed you on that debt chart, and I can open it back up again, but trees do not grow to the sky. They just don't. So if we're looking at this debt, let me just put this in. And let me shut this down. Oops.
Did we start early today? We didn't start early today. Wolf, we started at the normal time, boss.
I think so.
Yeah, we started at the normal time. Sorry about that, Wolf. Sorry you missed us.
Happened?
Oh, they're just saying had no idea she started an hour early. We didn't start early. Not today.
But you know what?
What? Oh, daylight savings?
Daylight savings time.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Change.
Because it doesn't change for us, so we don't ever think about it. Wolf, good call out.
Sorry.
So sorry. We in Arizona, we do not observe daylight savings times. We kind of just our own thing. We're doing our own thing. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yep, should have noted that. Thank you for telling me though.
So let's go to this, and there are two things that I'm going to show. There we go. So again, I'm going to show you the purchasing power chart, and can you see how on the Federal Reserve purchasing power chart, what do they say? They show a big fat zero right there, zero. That's the true value of it. But I wanted to show you the debt. So this is just one that it opened up to, so it made it kind of easier. And I'm going to go to, I love the surplus or deficits. Let's just do that one first, because that one's just flipping fun. Okay, I showed you this one. These are the surpluses or deficits, and you can see here where gold requires fiscal responsibility, so they had to balance the budget. This is World War II. You can see how budget had to be balanced because that was the requirement of gold. Now we go off the gold standard right there and look at the deficits that they're running. This little blip up in surplus was during Clinton's reign, and that was just an accounting change. They don't ever change behavior. They just change how they account for it. So even when I'm showing you this stuff, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's worse than what you're looking at. It's worse than what you're looking at. Yeah, right? Isn't that, I mean, it's just amazing. And I really...
Do you know what the accounting change was? I mean,
I don't remember.
Okay. I didn't know if you remembered it. Okay, got it.
I don't remember.
But yeah,
off the top of my head.
that's kind of wild. No. I mean,
okay, so
wild.
we want debt. Oops, if I could spell, that would be better. Oh, it doesn't want to do it. All right. Well, this actually, even though this isn't what I was looking at, this could be interesting to look at. Oh, see? Yep. This is Fed debt held by the Federal Reserve banks. So the banks used to be the biggest buyers of the treasuries, or one of the biggest buyers of the treasuries, as you can see right here. But they haven't been. This was slower hands, right? They're not going to trade in and out of it. Now, in order to, and remember, we're going to have a whole lot more debt that's being issued, a whole lot. And that would have happened regardless of who got in office. Just a whole lot more debt and deficits because they need to do more money. So who's going to buy them? Hot money hands. And what that means are traders, right? So expect a lot more volatility in the bond markets and expect, I mean, this is the underpinning of the global financial system until the BRICS finish theirs. Okay? This is not a pretty picture. You don't want this would be like having your house built on a foundation that's moving like this, or that could move like this at any moment. You've got to decide what really works for you. And of course, I do have all of those links in all of the blogs, right? You have all those links in there, right?
Correct. I put the links in the description. Correct.
So you guys can go and look at all of this. Let's just, I'm on.
And I will say with the links, sometimes if there's like a time you've selected, or you're grabbing a specific piece of data, you just need to like Google search that and it'll come right up for you, because the link itself will take you to a dead page. It happens like that sometimes. It's not all of them, but if it's pulling a very specific set of data, like a date range, for example, that's when it gets a little weird.
Well, you want to see our Federal Reserve people? Isn't that funny? That is not what I put in. They changed the links. Isn't that funny? Wow. Well, you could tell. I haven't used that in a while. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Let's see. Let's try this one. This one should be interesting. I mean, you saw that little page. My links go on and on and on. Okay, so this is, dismiss all, debt securities and loan liabilities, all sectors. Well, we're looking at $100 trillion. Remember how I said, if I owe you $1 million, I have a problem. If I owe you $10 million, you have the problem? The problem. We all have this problem. Nobody's going to escape it. That's why you got to have sound money. So you can see it just goes up and up and up and up. Well, can that just go up and up and up forever? And by the way, when you've got to make the interest payments on all of this debt, then it crowds out other spending, doesn't it? So no, I can't tell you when it's going to become apparent, when it's going to implode. That's probably a better way to put it. But I can tell you 100%, I know that's what's going to happen. It always happens. Always. There are no exceptions to that. None. And it doesn't matter whether you're government, a corporation, or an individual. It's just that governments have the advantage that they can print the money that they need and devalue what's already out there. That's what I'd like to take away from them. That's why that global community is so important, because I don't think they should have that right anymore. We need to take our rights back. And Space Cowboy asks, how do you think gold and silver will react tomorrow based on the CPI? Well, if you're talking about the spot gold and the spot silver markets, remember, those are contracts. But I think the CPI is going to probably come out a little bit hotter than anticipated, but I think that's really masking what's really going to be happening. Let's ask this. Would you ask me this question again, let's say February? And let's see what it looks like then. Because we're going to be on a honeymoon for a second, but that honeymoon will be over at some point. And again, it doesn't matter who got in. That's the way it is, because we're at the end of this currency's life cycle. And no one person can make any difference on this. They can make it faster or maybe a little bit slower, but I don't even think they can do that because of everything that's happened leading up to this moment. And Michelle Hale asks, bless you, Lynette. Thank you very much. My husband and I have worked so hard the past 20 years to acquire all the things you speak of. I pass your words along to others every day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And all of our children, thank you. And I mean, the fact that we're seeing this come through means the world to me. But I've also realized over this last year, where I always kind of heard that you're supposed to do something to have a positive impact on a lot of people, I've realized that I can't do it all by myself either. That's the job of all of us, is to make this world a better place. And for those generations to come, boy, we have not done a very good job. We need to. And bless you too. And I really appreciate, really, I'd like to grow this live to multiple thousands of people. And I can't wait to do the live in the new office. Oh, yeah. I don't know when we're going to get to do that. My God, I'm chomping at the bit for that one for sure. And JFK Patriot asks, how can President Trump lower inflation without getting rid of the Fed? Well, I don't think President Trump is about austerity at all. You would really have to cut government spending, and I don't think that's been part of his rhetoric at all. Not at all. So I would like to see the Fed go bye-bye, and if we were on a gold standard, we don't need the Fed. So, yeah, we'd definitely like to see that. But we're not going to have lower inflation. I'll bet any one of you 1 ounce of gold that a year from now, inflation will be higher than it is now. Prices will be higher than they are now. And I'm not worried about losing any of that. And Connor McCarthy says, Lynette, what's the difference between holding U.S. gold coins versus foreign coins? Will domestic gold fare better during a currency collapse? Are there different tax or convertibility implications? Great questions. Let's take one at a time. So I actually have, here it is, a French rooster right here. And in the early 60s, President Kennedy gave this a similar status to the pre-33s. So I'm very comfortable with these, and I feel they could be, I have British sovereigns. I even think I have a gold mark. So foreign gold coins, if they're older and they meet President Kennedy's requirements. Again, I go back to, can you hold it inside of an IRA? Because if you can, it's classified as monetary gold or bullion. So you want to look at that. And so if you're looking at a brand new Canadian maple leaf, for example, that would be bullion. This, what's the date on this? Oh, it's really little. Oh, here it is, 1907. You want to go below or earlier than 1948, because on like the gold Swiss francs, they did a lot of restrikes in 48. They're not old ones. So just go earlier than that. It'll have a similar status. But if you do any of like, you know, the pandas or the pesos, the old new pesos or any of that, if it's minted and it's new, so you want the earlier foreign gold coins. And then will domestic gold fare better during a currency collapse? Well, it's more recognizable here. It's kind of why I like the constitutional silver, because it's more recognizable. But for the same function, I can use my sterling silver flatware or chopsticks, right? So they may fare better inside of your country simply because they're more easily recognized. And like if you were going in to buy, like this happens to be a Canadian silver dollar, and if you were going to buy, say, a new silver American Eagle, you'd pay a little bit more for the silver Eagle in the U.S. than you would for the Canadian coin in the U.S., but it might be the reverse in Canada, because you could probably buy silver Eagles in Canada, but you're probably going to pay a little bit more of a premium for the Canadian one. So I feel differently about silver than I do about gold, simply because it gets used up and it's the secondary monetary metal. Gold's the primary currency metal against which they do those overnight revaluations. And let's see, are there different tax or convertibility implications? There can certainly be different convertibility. Here's the thing, okay? And I always, in some questions, I have to be careful of how I answer this a little bit. But there are different, not so much tax implications, and certainly no convertibility implications, because gold is gold wherever you are in the world, right? But there are certain types of gold coins at certain levels, which I don't think I can tell you. I think there's a way for you to get this information if you call us, but I don't think I can tell you on air. That is about reportability. So all good citizens should always pay all the taxes that are due. You got to pick your battles, quite frankly. That personally is not a battle I want to fight. They're bigger and stronger and meaner than I am. But these are non-reportable on the way in or the way out. I still would have to pay my taxes on it, and the taxes are certainly made. That's one of the ways that our government nudges you in the direction that we want to. This is the battle with the states. Getting gold and silver declared as legal tender in the states removes a lot of those taxing issues. Okay? And if we can get enough states to pass this legislation, then we're going to have a better impact on federal legislation. So stay tuned, because I don't really consider myself political at all. In fact, I really hate politics. I consider myself a lot more economic. But I will do whatever it is that I am called to do to get sound money in our system for our children and for you and for me and for all of us. And do we have any more questions? Disco Baller. Hi, Lynette. Big fan. Thank you so much, Disco. In the event of an economic reset, would you expect the value of gold and silver to have higher purchasing power right before or after the reset? Both. To be perfectly honest with you, absolutely both. Because what gold and silver do is they maintain your ability to purchase, right? And what's happening before the reset is hyperinflation. And so what we are likely to see, because this is what history shows us, is that that ratio between gold and silver will get narrower and narrower and narrower up to the reset, and then it'll flip-flop, right? So your silver, as I've shown you, will maintain your ability to buy the same basic goods and services, right? But the reset on the gold is substantially higher than that. So it maintains your ability to purchase, but also puts you in a position to buy those other income producing assets when they are then severely undervalued, right? So that's really the way that it works. It's not really right before or right after the reset. Right after the reset is really when you see this massive run in gold because they've reset against it. You're going to pay off any fixed rate debt at that moment in time, even though it has a tendency to stay up there for a while in terms of those dollars. Why risk it? So you'll see when I'm doing it, because the only reason I have a mortgage on this house is because I want to execute the strategy myself. Other than that, I wouldn't have a mortgage on it. But I do. And so you're going to know exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it, or at least the week that I'm doing it. So that's the way, if I were you, that's the way I would judge when I would do that. And B, Godot, what do you of what do I think of the dollar milkshake theory? Well, I think that it's fine because whether you do it against a Big Mac or you do it against a milkshake or you do it against a basket of food, it all points in the same direction. But there's more to the milkshake theory, and I haven't looked at it.
Can you explain it for anyone that doesn't understand?
Let me pull it up because it's been a long time since I've kind of looked at it because I go by history and facts. But the milkshake theory, I'm so glad we got this fixed because, right.
Just don't try it in Australia, please.
No, I won't. Okay, let's see. Okay, you may have heard of the dollar milkshake theory from Brent Johnson on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and Ray Dalio feels the U.S. is a waning world power. It's true. And the dollar's days in the world's reserve currency are numbered. That's true, too. And they would argue that the U.S. has flooded the world with dollars by cranking up the printing press. And that, of course, is also true. Perhaps the worst case scenario, the dollar hyperinflates. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to what it is. Double-digit inflation in almost half the world. You know what? Rather than going through all of this now because it's already 1:30, why don't I just do a little video on that? That'd be something that's pretty easy for me to put together while we're traveling. I'll leave that up for later.
There's also another video, and I don't want to speak for you, but there was a question in the comments, and I'm so sorry I missed it. Sometimes the comments go very quickly, guys, and I missed it. I apologize. Asking about the AMC, GME, GameStop stocks. Essentially asking you, I believe that they've asked a couple streams for you to research it, talk about the.
Fine, I'll do both of these. Write it down for me.
I'll
do both of these.
You got it. And I'm sorry,
I might end
I
up
missed
doing
the
it on the
comment.
plane, but I'll do both of these. I'll get both of these done. I mean, we're leaving Thursday, and honestly, I'm not even packed yet. I do have all my clothes set aside, but I haven't even begun to pack yet. Okay, Maureen asks, can you describe the worst case scenario of owning newly minted gold when the system goes bust? Do you imagine it will look like Roosevelt again? Will they be able to declare it at undervaluation? Okay, Well, the worst case scenario, all right, let me kind of go through what I think it's going to look like, period, right? So let's say the spot market is an easy market to manipulate. They admittedly have manipulated all the time. They can create as much gold and silver as they want. It doesn't have to have any relationship to reality. So since they manipulate that, let's just say that spot's at $3,000 when they decide to confiscate. They don't want pushback. They don't want you to realize that anything is going on. So I think that they will likely offer $4,000, right? Knowing full well that it's fundamental value, they're going to do the reset. It's going to be way higher than that. That's nothing. It's chump change. So they would do this big, huge sweep of IRAs because what's in there is bullion, right? And if they manipulate the spot market, all right, whatever you paid whenever you bought it is going to be less than the $4,000 that they're going to pay you, or whatever that number is going to be. It's random. It doesn't even matter. And so they won't get a lot of pushback, and people will be happy and think everything is just hunky-dory until they do that reset. The reason why I believe in the coins so strongly is because they're in a different category. And we can have an ounce of gold that could be $15 million for an ounce of gold. They turning that in for $4,000? Nope. So eminent domain laws say that they can take anything they want. They just have to pay you fair value. And since they manipulate what the market or what most people think of as fair value, easy peasy, they'd get your gold. And then the worst case scenario is all you have are these worthless pieces of paper, and you don't have your gold protection anymore. Because at that point, I got news for you. That's when they're going to be ready or getting ready to do that overnight revaluation. So the worst case scenario is that you were trying to protect yourself with gold, but no, you have no gold. That's the worst case scenario. And so you starve, your children starve, and you become in abject poverty. And I hope you're part of the community so that you have security in all of those other areas. But because of those eminent domain laws, they would have to look at every single coin and pay fair market value. And as I've shown you a number of times, and we'll do it again, I'm sure, the difference between the spot gold manipulated market and the collectible market that is only physical, only. So it gives you a true picture of supply and demand. That's why I prefer that. That's the worst case scenario. Would you go back to that question, though, because I think there was a little bit more that I missed. Okay, do you imagine it will look like Roosevelt again? So what Roosevelt did was he came out because he couldn't get the population to use the dollar, the new dollar. He couldn't get them back into the banking system because they were just bludgeoned unmercifully. And so if you listen to his fireside chat, he said, well, you can trust the new money because it's backed by good money. And what he's talking about is the gold he took away from the population. So in some ways, yes, probably like it looked in Roosevelt. And maybe because they're going to have to back the new currency when all confidence is lost with the degree of gold, maybe it will look more like Roosevelt. Will they be able to declare it at an undervaluation? Yes, I think I just showed you that. Absolutely 100% it's going to be undervalued. Just like it is now. Tell me what's the difference? The difference is if it were showing at its true valuation, more people would want it. And Wolf asks, is it safe to buy antiques and collectibles, which are tangible assets, in addition to gold and silver? The answer is yes, but you need to be very particular on it. Because what you're really talking about here is dynastic wealth. And dynastic wealth is wealth that lasts in families at least 300 100 years. So they have to be a true collectible, not something that the Franklin Mint says, yes, we're only going to mint a limited number of these, and then when they get all the orders in, that's how many they create. That's not a true collectible. And I don't think I can turn the camera. And am I wearing anything in particular? Not really. No, not really. But the answer is yes. And you've certainly seen in some of my other videos and probably in Instagram, because they'll have me stand in front of a case or whatever. I am definitely a tangible gal. When I first got divorced and I was trying to feed my babies, there were 3 at that time, honestly, I had to sell off some of my stuff in order to keep us floating. That's my savings. So yes, but be very selective. And oh, by the way, you can do all 3 of those things, because the 3 legs of the dynastic wealth stool are real estate, rare collectibles, and gold. And quite honestly, you can have a gold mine. You can have a rare collectible that's made out of gold, like some of the jewelry that I wear. It's old, it's antique, it's from the 20s. It's from, I almost wore that little green necklace that you see me wear. That's Edwardian, so that's earlier. And so the answer is yes. So you can do it. You can do it in gold, all 3 areas. And Niels Han Dynasty. Lynette Zang, what do you think of Putin not wanting to kill the dollar? Well, here's the thing. The dollar, as well as the ruble, as well as the yuan, as well as any of these things, keep that game going, right? Because what did we hear? Oh, the dollar is so much stronger. It's stronger against the ruble. It's stronger against the yuan, other currencies. It's stronger against real money, gold, right? If he were to kill the dollar, and the dollar is dying anyway, but it's not just the dollar dying, it's every single fiat currency out there, all of it. That's why it's so important to create this global community. And I'm not kidding about this. That's why I'm traveling, and I've got more things on the agenda. And you'll see, we're going to be doing these shows in different languages. I mean, we really are working on building a global movement, because we have to. It's the only hope we really have. We can't just look at Zimbabwe, right? They tried to do it in one little place. Well, frankly, they didn't really back the currency with gold, or you could have been convertible. It could have been convertible into the gold. That's real backing. That would have eliminated their ability to do that overnight revaluation. But a true currency that's backed gives the population, the public, the power. That's who has the power. Because you don't like what they're doing? Yeah, pull the gold out of the system, creates restrictions around what they can do. That's what I want to see. I want us to take our power back. So remember, and thank you. I'm sorry that we missed that time change. Please forgive us. But we are going to be live from Australia next week, and it'll be at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So this is going to be fabulous. And make sure, let's have a lot of conversation in all of these videos. I probably should have asked you for that in the beginning, because it helps the algorithm send it out to more people. And we really have to grow this channel. We have to grow these live events, and we have to come together locally and globally in community, because 100%, I absolutely know we can make a positive difference for everybody. And maybe, just maybe, we can have sound money back in our system again. So until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.